Welcome back. This is Ayurveda, the Science of Life 101. We're in session 5, the Gunas. Up to now, we've been working mostly with the body. We've looked at your dosha, your patterns, your natural blueprint. Today, we're going to shift into something just as important, your mind. Because Ayurveda does not separate the two. Your body has patterns, but your mind does too. And most people spend their entire lives reacting to their thoughts, without ever realizing that those thoughts are being shaped by something deeper. So today, we're going to do what we can to start seeing that clearly. Most people believe that their thoughts are just who they are. They'll say, I'm an anxious person. I'm just overwhelmed. I have zero motivation. They will turn these temporary mental states into a permanent identity. But if you're honest, you know your mind does not feel the same way all day, every day. Some days you're clear. Some days you're just wired. And some days you feel heavy and checked out. You are the same person, but having a different experience on a given day. So the question becomes, what's actually driving that? Because I can tell you something is. And once you see it, you stop taking those thoughts so personally. Those underlying drivers are called the gunas: Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Three qualities that shape how your mind functions in any given moment. They're not personality types and they are not labels. Rather, they are states, and they're constantly shifting. You can move all three within an hour or within a single day. You're constantly shifting. So instead of saying, this is just how I am, Ayurveda invites you to ask, what state am I in right now? That question alone and the answer to it starts to change things. Because I have to tell you, if you don't recognize the state, you will believe whatever your mind is telling you. When you're anxious, your thoughts sound urgent and important. When you're heavy, your thoughts sound hopeless and true. When you're clear, everything suddenly makes sense and nothing external changed, just your state. So the work here is not to control every thought. Frankly, that can't be done. It's to understand what state your mind is operating from. Because honestly, that's where your power truly is. So let's begin with the first state, sattva. Sattva is clarity, but it's not the intense, hyper focused kind. It's a quiet clarity. It's when your mind feels like there's nothing pulling at it. You have no urgency. You have no pressure, no heaviness, just a steady awareness. You're still thinking, but you're not caught in your thoughts. You can step back and observe. And for a lot of people, this actually feels really unfamiliar because we're used to, particularly in the West, either being busy or shut down. That simple clarity can really feel strange, but it is your baseline. That's what your mind feels like when it's not being pushed or pulled out of balance. In a sattvic state, you tend to feel grounded, not sluggish, not overstimulated, just steady, clean, clear, pure. You can focus without forcing it. You can listen without preparing your response. You can make decisions without overthinking. There's far less internal noise. And more importantly, less emotional reactivity. Things that would normally trigger you, well, they just don't land. Not the same way. Not because you're suppressing anything, but because your system isn't agitated. That's what mental balance actually feels like. Here's a key insight. Sattva is not something you achieve. It's what's left when the noise settles. When Rajas calms down and Tamas lifts, Sattva naturally rises. So understand, we're not chasing clarity. We're removing what blocks it. And when you start to experience this state more consistently, you begin to trust yourself more because honestly, you're seeing clearly. Now, Rajas. Rajas is movement. It's the part of you that wants to do, wants to fix, wants to plan, achieve, respond. It's not bad, it's very necessary. Without Rajas, you wouldn't get out of bed. You wouldn't take action. You wouldn't move your life forward. But most people are not living with balanced Rajas. They're living in excess Rajas. And that's where our problems start. When Rajas is active, the mind can feel very busy. You're thinking ahead. You're replaying conversations. You're making lists. You're solving problems. And again, I want you to know this can feel productive. We do need it. It can feel like you're on it. But notice something. Even when nothing is actually happening, your mind keeps going. That's the difference. It doesn't shut off, and over time, that constant movement, it becomes exhausting. When Rajas becomes too strong, the system will tip. You can start to feel anxious, impatient, reactive, easily irritated. Everything feels just a little urgent. Even small things need immediate attention. And this is where people get stuck. Because on one hand, it can feel like productivity, and some Rajas is good. But when it becomes unbalanced, it's actually simply overstimulation. Rajas can feel like control, like you're managing everything, like you're staying ahead, you're staying sharp. But underneath that, there is tension because your system doesn't know how to stop. You're always slightly on. So the work here with Rajas is not to shut it down. It's to recognize when movement has turned into restlessness. That's the line. Now, Tamas. Tamas is stillness, heaviness, slowing down. And just like Rajas, it's necessary. Tamas allows you to rest, to sleep, to pause, to recover. Without Tamas, you would burn out completely. But again, the issue is excess. Because when Tamas builds too much, it doesn't feel like rest anymore. It can feel like resistance. When Tamas is strong, the mind feels heavy. You may feel foggy, maybe even unmotivated or perhaps disconnected. It's harder to initiate things, harder to engage. Sometimes it feels like you just don't care. And that can be frustrating because you know what you should be doing, but you can't seem to get yourself moving. I got to tell you, that's not a personality flaw. Give yourself some grace. It's simply a state. When Tamas dominates, it becomes stagnation and you feel stuck. Literally, things pile up. Avoidance creeps in, your energy drops. And here's the thing, the longer it stays, the harder it is to shift because the system has settled into stillness. Without the energy to move it out, that is an imbalance. But again, I want you to remember, Tamas is not the enemy. You need it to rest, to ground, to integrate. The problem is when rest turns into inertia. So the work is not to fight Tamas. It's to gently bring movement back in, little by little. We all have 3 gunas. Each quality is necessary and useful. Issues arise when tamas or rajas dominate for too long. Our job is not to eliminate them, but to recognize them so they can shift naturally and allow sattva to arise. For a deeper understanding, I want you to consider this. Your dosha influences your tendencies. Vata tends towards rajas, movement and anxiety. Pitta tends toward rajas, intensity and drive. Kapha tends towards tamas, heaviness and stillness. But this is not fixed. And here's the most important piece. You are not your thoughts. You are not your state. You are experiencing them. When you see that clearly, you can stop being controlled by them. I'm going to pause here, take a moment, consider your dosha, consider the tendencies with your dosha and how that's showing up in your mind and your life. Think about your day. You've already moved through all 3. Moments of clarity, moments of urgency, moments of heaviness. That's the gunas. They're always moving. Most people don't see this, they just react. But once you realize that you are just in a state, everything can slow down a little. That's where change begins. Because here's the truth. In that moment, when you realize you're in a state, you have a choice. You know you don't have to follow every little thought. You don't have to react to every feeling. You can quite literally pause. Because you always have a choice. Take a moment here and close your eyes and take a breath. Ask yourself, what state am I in right now? Am I clear? Am I just busy? Do I feel a little heavy? Just notice. Stay with it for a moment. There's no need to fix it. You don't need to judge it. You just need to see it clearly. Just breathe and notice. Allow it to arise and fall. No judgment and no fixing. Because whatever you're feeling, it's not a flaw. It's a state. And states can change. Once you see it, you can begin to work with it. It's not forcefulness, it's awareness, it's intelligence. It's allowing the wave to rise and fall and know that Sattva will return as you shake free from Tamas and as you allow Rajas to quiet. So I want to thank you for being here. The next session will bring this back into the body and begin working with digestion and imbalance in a very real way. I'll see you in the next session.